Hi guys, today's Monday, June 8th, and I'm getting on here to talk about the tech and AI stock market rebound we saw today, especially with all the negative momentum we saw going into the weekend and why this necessarily happened, because we saw this NASDAQ bottom out towards the end of the closing bell on Friday and the huge correction we saw on Friday and towards the end of the week there in these tech and AI stocks. We saw all this negative momentum, and I didn't really think, as I mentioned in my previous videos, that there was too many options where the stock market ended positive today, but there was one scenario I did mention where I thought it could happen, and that scenario played out today, as enough investors saw these corrections and were going in and buying a dip today, and it shot up the stocks enough to see some pretty decent returns and some pretty confident returns in some of these stocks, with the NASDAQ climbing up about 1.3% today, and S&P rising about 0.7 today, as well as some of these other stocks here like Micron Technologies up about 8%, Marvell Technologies about 9%, and Nvidia up about 2%, and even one of my own positions, ACM Research, up about 6-7% here today. It's a good sign of confidence for these investors. I mean, not all the correction may have been rebounded today, as I'd say only about half of what we lost towards the end of the week there has been made back today on Monday, but it's definitely a good sign. It led me not to sell my positions in some of these AI and semiconductor stocks and right out to see what we have in store for us the rest of the week. So it's definitely a good sign of confidence. Along with this, we also saw some other optimistic signs here today, with Corning up about 9% after a multi-billion-dollar deal with AI data centers from Amazon, and Apple today with its Worldwide Developers Conference kicking off and anticipating some major AI upgrades. I will be making a video on that later today, so stay tuned for that. Also, we got some good news in the geopolitical world, with crude, while it was flirting with $98 a barrel over the weekend, it is pulling back to around the low 90s a barrel, which is due to Iran signaling an end to its current military operations and Trump indicating that they're working towards a ceasefire, which can only be good news for most of the world right now. However, there's still some catches to some of these things, and some things to be cautious about, as we have a couple clouds looming over us the rest of the week. In macroeconomics, we see a cloud here of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve still got to announce whether they're going to cut or hike interest rates and what they're going to do there. It's the new chairman's first time making a call here, so many people think that he might not raise interest rates here because Trump is so big on letting the economy run hot. But I'm here to say that that's not necessarily true, especially because it's not up to the chairman, it's up to a majority vote in the seats. So you've got to have enough votes in the seats for them not to raise the interest rates here. And I really just don't see a world where they vote to lower the interest rates. So that'll be an interesting news break when it comes out, and something to be on the lookout for, as well as that same Friday SpaceX IPO. So you can see towards the end of the week, a lot of investors will probably pull out profits and pull out losses to raise some of their capital, especially a lot of these retail investors, for SpaceX new IPO, because a lot of people are still looking to get in. I don't know if the IPO date is necessarily the time to get in. I think probably the next 6 months would be the ideal position if you're looking at getting in SpaceX. But that'll be an interesting rally on Fridays. It looks to be one of the biggest IPOs in history. So that's something to be on the lookout for, and something that could cause major volatility in the stock market. Also, we can expect to see the inflation reports on Wednesday here come out, and inflation's expected to tick up here, which cannot be good for the market here, and you could probably see a little bit of a pullback in the market if inflation has risen as much as is expected. Also, you saw a couple of the major defense sector stocks and healthcare and utilities consumer staple stocks lag back today. So the whole market didn't necessarily participate in this rebound that we saw in the tech sector today. So there's definitely some major events to be on the lookout for this week and stuff to be aware of. Tomorrow should be a relatively calm day, I would assume. But starting Wednesday, you can expect the market to be really volatile. So I definitely recommend being safe out there. And as always, this is not financial advice.